All right, so it's Saturday. It's cold outside, and I figured since it's cold, we might as well brew another beer. So this one is going to be a extract kit from Brewer's Best. It's a whiskey barrel stout. So let's go over the ingredients here and what we're
Okay,
gonna
so
do.
Brewer's Best kit. It's an extract kit. Here it is, whiskey barrel stout. What it comes with, let me just show you the inside of the box. So there's some literature over here. Priming sugar for the day of the bottling. Bottle caps if we need them. I won't be. I got some jars that I use. Growlers. The instructions that you'll need for brew day with all the specifics. Your hops, there'll be 2 hop additions, Cascade hops and German Magnums. Whiskey barrel oak chips, so these are obviously the wood from whiskey barrels been chipped down here, so this will be an addition for the secondary that the beer will sit on to kind of try to impart some of that oak bourbon flavor. Our yeast, right here, so it's dry yeast called Safel, dry ale yeast. You can read up there and everything else. So this will be our yeast addition. Our malt base is going to be done with a combination of liquid malt extract and dry malt. So our dry malt extract is right here. It's a CBW Sparkling Amber, 1 pound of that. And then 2 of our liquid malt extracts. One is the CBW Special Dark, 3.3 pounds of that. It's non-hopped. And then you have a CBW 3.3 pounds of the Pilsen Light. Then we have some steeping grains. So we have 1 pound of crushed caramel and crushed dark chocolate, so 50-50 mix right here. And we have 6 ounces of our roasted barley right here. So together these steeping grains will give us that nice dark color that we're looking for. Obviously a muslin bag for the grain steeping. And then I have a second bag of priming sugar from a batch that didn't work out for me. And I never got to use the priming sugar, so I'm going to add a second bag of priming sugar to this beer to kind of just bump the sugars. So yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and get everything started, and I'll show you. Okay, so I got a bucket here with some Star sand in it. I've just sanitized a couple of things: my hydrometer, my thief, my little flask, and inside there too is the airlock. I got a plastic little mixing spoon rather than the stainless steel one, so don't scratch the pot. Obviously, my kettle, my boil kettle, and then I got a plastic primary fermenter. I'm going to use this the carboy style rather than the fermenting jug this time. I just feel like the carboy style really helps remove the air gaps that we get. And so I'll show you what I did here. I actually just poured in water here. That's Star sand in there too, with some warm water. What I did is I poured in incremental gallons, and I did some just quick marks with Sharpie and tape. So it's a quick reference for my total volume. And on this side, we have a thermometer, a little peel and stick thermometer. Let me zoom in real fast so it'll actually highlight up as the liquid comes up. So it's just a quick indication of where we are as far as temperatures to help us keep a little bit better eye of our temperature during fermentation, so we can adjust the environment accordingly. And then over here, I have my secondary carboy. So rather than using the buckets, I'm going to use this as my secondary again. I just like the carboys for just for the way they minimize headspace, so we can keep our beer away from oxygen. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and start getting some water up to temperature for our grains. Okay, so here we are. I have 2.5, a little bit more than that, almost 2.5 and some change gallons of water here. If you look at our handy dandy thermometer, we are right at 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to push that to the side. I'm going to kill the heat. And I got my grains already in the muslin bag, nice and tied off. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and steep them. It's just like making some tea. So here we are. And you know what? Let me go ahead and remove this thermometer for just a second. Put this over to the side. Yep, there we are. So I'm going to go ahead and, just like you're making some tea, I'm going to go ahead and steep this in here for just a moment. I'm going to do a loose knot here on the side. And then we got some of this residual grain here. I'm not afraid. Go ahead and dump that stuff right there. And grab my spoon here. You can already see the color of that malt. Ooh-wee, look at that. Dark, dark, dark. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just gently poking the bag. I'm not poking it hard. What I'm trying to do is not split the bag, but just really ensure that some of that hot water is getting into every nook and cranny of the grain, so we get a good extraction of some of the sugars and the colors. All right, so there we are. Fantastic. Let's put that here. I'll go ahead and let my thermometer do its thing right here, and let's let it come up to temp real fast. Because what I'm going to try to do is maintain temperature here at 100 and no less than 155. So I'm going to put this on low. I have an electric cooktop here, so just go ahead and put that down like that. And we see it's coming up right now. Yep, so I'm just going to add a little bit more heat, get up to 150 degrees, and I'm going to watch it periodically to make sure that this sucker stays at 150 for 20 minutes. So we'll be back in 20 minutes and take a look at that. That is what we're talking about for a stout. So you could see the temperature actually did really well. I just kind of left my stove on low, shut the lid, and just checked on it I think about 3 times in 20 minutes. And my temperature stayed nice and steady at 160 degrees. So we don't really want to go too much higher. The reason being the tannins can be released. And so now it's time to let this sucker strain out. So I'm just kind of holding this bag up over here. Nice and easy. We just want to get all that stuff out. Now I've seen people, they'll get actually some nice hot water, maybe like 170 degrees, and slowly pour it over these grains to do like a wash. I'm not going to do that here in this case, but if you wanted to, it's certainly something you can do. So I'm going to let this sucker strain out, and then we'll be back to initiate our boil. I got the grain strained. I just kind of let them sit there on top of the spoon for about 3 minutes. And I just want you to look at this color. So that's why we use the specialty grains in this extra kit. That's just from that little bit of grain addition. So yeah, it looks really great, smells really nice. And now it's time for our malt addition. So the instructions say we're going to bring this up to a boil. So I've already got the heat cranking up pretty high. I'm going to get it to a nice gentle rolling boil, and at that time I'm going to add all my malt extract. So that means I'm going to add in my dry malt extract right here, 1 pound of it. And I'm going to add in my 2 canisters of liquid malt extract. So I just took the labels off so they wouldn't melt up, but this is as hot as I could get my my sink going. I just put these things up underneath it to get it up, because malt extract is like syrup. It's this really, really thick molassesy stuff. So we want to loosen up in some hot water. We'll actually use some of the boil wort to rinse them out nice and neat. I'm also going to add a little bit of the Zabalitzas I got left over, because this is going to be a flavoring addition later on, but this is my secret, don't tell no one. So that's going to go right there. And also during our boil, we're going to do our hop addition. So we're going to have our 60-minute addition of Magnum hops. And then we're going to have a 20-minute addition of Cascade. I'm also going to add in, like I mentioned before, this is a 5 ounces of priming sugar I had from a previous recipe. I didn't end up using it, so I'm gonna add this just 5 ounces in to boost up the sugars. And also I'm gonna add in my my normal bit of Irish moss. I love it to help try to clean this beer up. We're going for dark, but I also want it to be a clean dark. That's just me. I use it and I like it. So yeah, I'm gonna bring this up to a boil. Add in my malt, and I will be back with our 60-minute edition of hops. All right, so we're back. Our wort is at a boil. I've added in all the dry malt extract, liquid malt extract, the little bit of abuelitas, and the 5 ounces of priming sugar. We beat hot break, which means this foam actually started to go really high. You can see it actually came up to here. So I ratcheted my heat down and started stirring vigorously. And keep an eye on it. Time for our first hop edition, our 60-minute hop edition of German Magnum. So give me 1 second, and I'm gonna put you down. I'm gonna start adding these hops. Now the key is this solution, this sugar solution, is very, very hot, and so I'm gonna add these hops very, very slowly, because what ends up happening is these hops are dried pellets. And when you throw them into this superheated liquid, they expand rapidly, and that can cause boilovers. So, a little bit at a time, not rushing. There we go. Gonna keep on stirring there. And there you go. So, I just added those very, very slowly. Just kept on stirring the whole time. And I'm gonna start a timer for 60 minutes, and then when we have 20 minutes left on the clock, we're going to do our second hop edition of the Cascade. So see you then. Boil, time to add our Cascade hops. Look at that. Again, smell great. I'm just going to throw those suckers right on in there. Switch my hands and give this a good stir. So it's 36, so at 5:31, we'll be back. I'm just gonna stir these hops in, and we'll be back at 15 minutes left on the boil. 15 minutes left here on our boil, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of Irish moss. There we go. And stir that in. So Irish moss helps with the clarification of the beer. It's actually a seaweed derivative, believe it or not. And if you ever get a chance to mess with it or smell some of it, it'll smell exactly like seaweed. But the great thing is, it is not going to impart any off flavors or anything near like a seaweed flavor into the beer. What it's going to actually help to do is help grab some of these particulates in the wort, all this loose sediment. Let's see if you can see anything. Obviously, there's like a lot of dredge and hops and everything in here, but it's just going to help us create a clearer beer, which is why we add it. So 15 minutes left, and then we're going to start chilling. All right, so our boil is completed. I got my wort sitting here in a bath of ice water, and I'm just going to stir it down here now. Keep on stirring it. This will do 2 things. One, it'll help blow off some steam. Obviously, we can see that going out. Also, it's going to help aerate the wort. And aerate just means we're going to put oxygen in it. Why? Because when we pitch our yeast, in addition to sugar, they're going to need some oxygen to breathe. And that's going to help us get good alcohol yields and let the yeast do their thing. So I'm going to keep stirring this here, change out the water bath here, and we're going to shoot for a wort temperature between 73 and 68 degrees to get it nice and good for the yeast. So I will check back once the wort is cool. Alright, so here we are. I filled up the wort. I used a funnel right here with a strainer, this bad boy right here, to get out a lot of the hops and everything. And then I put on the cap for a second and shook the heck out of it. So that's what you see, all this foam right here is that, so it's going to get good oxygen. I'm checking the temperature right here, and I don't know if you can see that, but you see how they're starting to glow in different colors and whatnot? So that's our temperature. So down here we were at 76, but we're kind of at 70. So that's actually perfect pitching temperature right now. And if you look around, you see any of the finer particulate matter that's still floating around in here. So what I'm gonna do next, I'm gonna use my Thief. It's a sanitized Thief, this bad boy right here, to get a sample, and we'll measure the specific gravity of the wort to see what our potential alcohol yield is, pitch the yeast to get this sucker going. So give me 1 second. Okay, so here we go. This is the view through the refractometer. And it looks like we're right at our target specific gravity of 1.065. We might actually be a little bit over. Let's go over here to the instructions and see. Yeah, so we're right actually at the upper range, 1.065. So that's good. That's good. It should give us around 6% then of our yield, as long as we hit our final gravity targets. So let me go ahead and get the yeast ready to pitch. So it's time to pitch our yeast. So let's go ahead and get that sucker in. Dry yeast right here. We didn't need to hydrate it any, according to the instructions. Alright, and let me just give this a shake here. Just trying to give them a chance to really get into the beer. Not exactly scientific or anything, just give it a stir. Alright, so at this point, we're ready to go. We're ready to cook. I'm gonna go ahead and throw an airlock on here, and we're gonna let it run through primary fermentation for about a week. So
all right, about a week. It's been about 17 hours, and we have a good, healthy fermentation. You can see there's a little bit of foam right there coming up. Not a big deal. Our beer has a nice head on it, a nice kreuzen from the fermentation from that yeast. So let's check the temperature right here. So yeah, it's kind of right at about 74 degrees. And if you look in, yep, look at that nice, healthy fermentation as everything is flowing in there. I'm going to keep an eye on the temperature more than anything else. But we don't really want to go much higher than that. Fermentation is a process that produces heat, and knowing where our yeast is going to go, we really want to keep it kind of closer to the 70-degree threshold than anything else. So the way I'll do that is by adjusting my ambient air temperature here in the house. So if I see like it starts to jack up a little bit more, I'll drop the ambient air temperature, and hopefully that'll help cool this sucker off. So we'll be back towards the middle of the fermentation. We'll check out how it is, and at the end of the fermentation. So today's Sunday, probably check back on it on Wednesday, and then again on Friday, Saturday. Okay, so it's been 7 days, and as you can see, still some bubbling going on in there. You'll see the bubbles pop up every once in a while. So there's still some fermentation going on. No activity in our airlock, and obviously the kreuzen really settled down. Look here. You can see that there's a lot of good sediment that's settled down. Good, happy with that. So a lot of that trub kind of just falls down gently. And as we look at the beer, remember before, our temperature was kind of hovering right here, 74, 76, at the higher end of the ale. And as the fermentation has weakened, and as the yeast go dormant, we see these temperatures kind of creeping back up anywhere between 68, 72 degrees. So I would estimate it's probably about 71, 72 degrees, which matches the ambient air temperature in the house right now. So that's good. I'll check on this here this evening and see if I'm still getting these periodic bubbles. And if I still am, I'm going to do a hydrometer reading and see exactly what my specific gravity is compared to the original. And then I'll make a determination based off of that whether or not it's time for us to move from primary to secondary. Okay, so here we are. It's been exactly 7 days. It's actually a little bit over, maybe like an hour and a half over 7 days since the yeast was pitched. So I sanitized my Thief. I've already used it, obviously. I pulled out a sample here into this shot glass to get a hydrometer reading. So let's take a look at what we got going on here. Alright, I've already done this, but again, you know how this works out.
All right, so hydrometer is saying 1035, 1034, something like that. And that's the specific gravity as reported week-in for fermentation. And so I just wrote it down here on my sheet of paper. And when I plug it into my formula, I'm getting basically 4% alcohol by volume. So I was shooting for a little bit higher. I really want to see if I can get it down a little bit lower. And as I look at the beer, there is still fermentation happening. So the instructions tell me, you know, it should take about 4 to 6 days, depending on your temperature, blah, blah, blah. And we're looking, the reason I know I'm disappointed in my turnout so far is the FGs that we're looking for. So remember, our original gravity was spot on. We were on the high end, and in our final gravity, we should be somewhere in the 1016, 1019s. So we're still at 35, so it's almost like it's only halfway done. So what I'm going to do, today is Saturday, I'm going to let this sucker sit. I'm going to let it sit till probably Wednesday, and I'm going to do another specific gravity reading at that time. If I see some changes, if I see it drop maybe a point or something that I determine to be significant, then that's good, and then I'll let it even out. Because what I'm looking for is the fermentation stalling, which means if on Wednesday I still come back and my specific gravity is right here around 1035, 034, something like that, I'm just gonna cut my losses and move it on to secondary because I don't want to leave it on that yeast too much longer. I want to start adding my flavoring additions. So yeah, that's basically it. So the whole point of this part of the video is just to let you know, just because you don't see bubbles, just because your airlock isn't just churning away with all this energy, doesn't necessarily mean that fermentation isn't happening. And like I showed you earlier, there are some little bubbles coming up to the surface. So this yeast is probably still working and having to get used to the fact that there is more and more alcohol present in the wort. So it might be a little bit harder for them to do their job. So as you do it yourself, just make sure that whenever you're doing it, sterilize everything, keep it clean, clean, clean. I filled up this entire part of the sink with Star sand, and I ran this thief through that Star sand about 7-8 times before I did anything. Same thing with my pipette. Let's take a look at this. So this is just a shot glass of it. So not a bad color so far. Let's see if we can do some sort of like fancy. Yeah, so it's pretty dark, you know, holding it in front of the light. Can't really see it. Has a good little look to it. Do a smell. Doesn't taste that bad either. Obviously it's warm and flat, but it's actually really clean at the beginning. Not really heavy. I'm taking another sip. It's clean. And I definitely get the roasted bits of it at the end. But there's no milkiness. Obviously, this isn't a milk stout. No real heaviness. It is dark. I know it's dark. I feel that the kind of texture of that caramel malt's coming out, but it's good. I think the flavor it has right now is going to do well with the flavor additions that I'm thinking about, which we'll look here when it's time to rack into the secondary. All right, so change of plans. I was going to wait a little bit extra, but my schedule has changed, so here we are. Primary is now, this is day 8. We're still getting some slight bubbling up here, but for the most part, I think active fermentation's died down. I've already recorded my gravity. So now it's time to add our whiskey barrel oak chips. So in order to do this, I got a cup of water, coming to a boil, and then once that comes to a boil, I'm going to add in this packet of oak chips and boil it for 5 minutes to sanitize the oak chips. Because remember, everything that comes in contact with the beer has to be sanitized. And to that end, I also got my racking cane, all my tubing, my next airlock and everything sitting in some Star San. And I also have my second carboy here. My secondary carboy has also been sitting in some Star San. I just rinsed it out and I'm letting it drip dry out. The other addition I'm going to make to the beer is some Mexican hot chocolate, some abuelitas. So these are the tablets. So I'm going to add a couple of these in, maybe 1 or 2 to the 5 gallons. And then if I feel like getting really crazy, I might steep those suckers in some Kahlua, some chili chocolate Kahlua. Haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. This is 20%, so I might not add this. I don't want to kill off any yeast in there, but let's see. So yeah, get this water to a boil, and then we'll start racking. So in this secondary right now, I have 2 tabs of Abuelita's hot chocolate. Most of my wood chips, there's still some left here in the funnel. But most of my sanitized wood chips, and 1 shot of the chili chocolate Kahlua. So now it's time to rack the beer from primary to secondary. So I'm going to get the racking cane and everything started up here. And we'll be back here with the rack
we got all 5 gallons nice and racked in there. You can see some of the sediment from the oak chips and the abuelitas. Temperature strip is obviously on there. So we're doing pretty well for a secondary. Nice and cool. You can already see some of that trub from the chips is already down there at the bottom. That's fine. That's where I leave. Got my airlock on here. And the reason it's so dark is because it's actually in one of my cabinets. So I'm going to leave this in here for about 2.5 weeks now. Nice dark. Check up on it periodically to make sure it's not blown up or anything. I don't really expect too much secondary fermentation, like as in active fermentation where we see like a yeast cooking around and creating more alcohol, but I don't know. So you can look over here. We have a good little bit of dead yeast cells. That's the beer I couldn't salvage. So now it's time to clean up and everything else. So this concludes part 1. We've gone all the way from the recipe to actually boiling and primary fermentation, and so we will pick back up from secondary fermentation and bottling. Hey, so here we are at secondary fermentation. It's just been like an hour or 2, but I want to do a little quick video just to show you what happens sometimes when you put in secondary. So I'm down here in my cabinet, and I'm keep filming this airlock just to show you. We're going to get some bubble action here, hopefully in the next couple of seconds, just to show you that whenever we rack beer, there's a couple of things that go on. One, alright, let me get a little bit more closer. See that bubble right there just popped up? So one, what's happening is that we've added some oxygen to the beer. We try to limit the amount of oxygen that comes up, but some of it's inevitable. I mean, we don't have a closed, sealed off system as we do an auto siphon, so there is some air. So that air kind of gets in there and the yeast get kind of mixed back up because it's moving from one tank to another, and they can get active again for a little bit. And that's why you throw on this airlock and make sure that thing is nice and smooth. I don't expect it to be a rolling fermentation, but the yeast are starting to cook up again. And in addition, there's a lot of the sugar and stuff like that from the abuelitas especially that have come through. My temperature is right here, 72 is our max cap. So that's good, I'm happy with that. And as we look down towards the bottom, we can see a lot of this detritus and sediment from the oak chips. So I expect a lot of this to settle down here in the next couple of weeks, and hopefully we'll get this nice good beer. Smell great coming in, the mixture of flavors and everything, and look forward to bottling.